What power can silence an army of 185,000 Mars in the stillness of a single night? Does a celestial flame still burn, waiting to judge the hearts of the defiant? When the mightiest empire kneels before an unseen force, can you feel the weight of divine will? What secrets does the darkness hold when even the stars bow to a higher decree? And when the angel of judgment descends once more, will your soul be found wanting? In the sacred heart of Jerusalem, a tale of faith and fury awakens. From the embers of a forgotten covenant, a light emerges to defy the shadows. The air in Jerusalem trembles heavy with the musk of ancient stone and the bitter tang of fear. A distant thunder rolls not from the heavens but from the march of countless boots upon the earth. The scent of burning cedar wafts through the night, mingling with the iron tang of blood yet unspilled. Flickering shadows cast by Assyrian torches dance on the city walls like specters, heralding an encroaching doom. Are you ready to face a truth so vast it could unravel the very fabric of your being? O ye who hear, lend your hearts to this solemn chronicle of a city teetering on the brink of oblivion, where the echoes of divine glory once resounded, now drowned by the clamor of false gods and forsaken oaths. In the hallowed streets of Jerusalem, a darkness had taken root, not of night but of the spirit. The sacred paths meant for songs of praise were choked with the smoke of profane offerings. King Ahaz, father of a destined heir, had turned his back on the Almighty, leading his people into a mire of idolatry. Altars to lifeless deities rose like thorns, their cold stone faces mocking the covenant of old. The people burned fragrant leaves, their prayers rising to gods who could not hear. They adorned their homes with carved idols, their hands crafting abominations, their hearts turning from the light of truth. The great temple of Solomon, a sanctuary of divine communion, stood silent. Its gates sealed its altars. Cold cobwebs draped the sacred pillars, and the echoes of forgotten prayers hung heavy in the air. The priests, once keepers of the holy flame, had forsaken their duties, their robes stained with the guilt of compromise. The songs of worship, once a river of devotion, had dried up, leaving only a barren silence. Yet amidst this spiritual decay, a young prince watched from the shadows. Hezekiah, a soul alight with sacred fire, carried the weight of his people's forgotten faith. His eyes, though young, bore the wisdom of ages. From his chamber window, he gazed upon the city's fall from grace. He saw the people bow to idols of wood and stone, their hearts adrift, severed from the divine anchor. Their laughter rang hollow, their joy a fleeting illusion. Hezekiah remembered the days of his childhood, when his tutors, wise men of the old ways, spoke of the Almighty's wonders in hushed tones. They told him of the covenant, a sacred bond between God and his chosen people. In the stillness of his solitude, he whispered the tales of his forefathers, stories etched into his very soul. Of David, who faced Goliath with naught but a sling and a heart fortified by unshakable trust in God. Of Moses, who stood before the Red Sea and watched as the waters parted by divine command, leading the chosen people to freedom through the desert sands. Of Abraham, whose faith bound him to the Almighty, a covenant sealed with a promise of eternal legacy. To Hezekiah, these were not mere legends but living truths, beacons in the darkness of a fallen kingdom. Each story was a thread, weaving a tapestry of hope in his heart. He remembered the words of the prophets, the promises of a God who never forsakes, a God who delivers the faithful from the jaws of despair. And so, even as the city strayed, Hezekiah held fast to the light of the divine. He walked the palace halls at night, his footsteps echoing in the stillness, his mind heavy with the burden of his people's sins. He knelt in prayer, seeking guidance from the Almighty, his whispered pleas rising like incense. He dreamed of a day when the temple would live again, when the songs of worship would fill the air, when the people would return to their true king. That dream became his purpose, a sacred fire that burned within him. When the crown passed to him upon the death of his father, Ahaz, Hezekiah stood before his people, a young king yet resolute in purpose. His first decree was a clarion call to redemption. With unwavering steps, he approached the Temple of Solomon, its gates sealed for years, a monument to a forgotten faith. The crowd gathered, their eyes wide with curiosity. "Open these gates," he commanded, his voice a thunderclap in the morning air. The heavy doors groaned as if awakening from a long slumber, revealing the sacred space within. The air was thick with dust and neglect. The golden menorah tarnished, the altar cold and lifeless. But Hezekiah saw beyond the decay, envisioning a sanctuary reborn. "Cleanse this sanctuary," he declared. "Let every trace of falsehood be cast out. This is the house of the Almighty, and we shall worship him alone." His voice rang with the authority of divine mandate. The priests, rekindled by their king's fervor, set to work with reverent hands. They tore down the profane altars, their chants of repentance echoing through the halls. The temple began to breathe once more. They scrubbed the stone floors, polished the sacred vessels, and lit the menorah its flames, a symbol of renewed devotion. The air filled with the scent of sacred oil, a fragrance that spoke of divine presence. Beyond the sacred walls, Hezekiah's mission continued. He sent his men through the city, their hammers striking with righteous fury. False idols shattered under their blows, reduced to rubble, their power broken. The sound of breaking stone echoed through Jerusalem, a symphony of redemption. Each strike a declaration of faith. The people watched, some in awe, some in fear, as their new king waged war on the darkness. Where once stood monuments to deceit, now lay only fragments, scattered like the bones of a vanquished foe. The air, once heavy with the scent of pagan offerings, was cleansed by the winds of renewal. But Hezekiah's vision reached deeper, beyond the destruction of stone and wood. He sought to heal the hearts of his people, to rekindle the flame of their sacred bond. He gathered them in the temple courts, his voice a beacon of hope. He spoke of the covenant eternal and unbroken, of the promises given to their forefathers, promises of protection, of prosperity, of a future. He reminded them of the plagues of Egypt, of the manna in the wilderness, of the walls of Jericho that fell by divine command. The people listened, their eyes glistening with tears, their hearts stirring as memories of faith returned. They remembered the stories their grandparents told, of a God who parted seas, who brought down giants, who never abandoned his people. Little by little, the city awoke, its spirit rising like a phoenix from the ashes. The temple became a beacon once more. Songs of praise filled its ancient halls, rising like incense to the heavens. The altars burned with offerings of devotion. The priests lifted their voices in unison, their chants a river of worship flowing through the city. Joy returned to the streets of Jerusalem, a joy rooted in the rediscovery of truth. The marketplace, once filled with the clamor of trade, now echoed with hymns of gratitude. Children played beneath the olive trees, their laughter mingling with the songs of the faithful. The city felt alive, its pulse strong with renewed faith. But this peace was a fragile thing, a fleeting moment before the storm. For far to the north, a shadow loomed vast and merciless. The Assyrian Empire, a name that struck terror, had turned its gaze toward Jerusalem. Their banners bore the mark of conquest, their war cries a harbinger of doom. The Assyrians were not merely an army, but a force of annihilation, a scourge upon the earth. Their numbers were legion, their cruelty unmatched in the annals of history. They marched with the precision of a machine, each soldier a cog in a wheel of destruction. Their armor gleamed in the sunlight, a sea of steel that stretched to the horizon. Towers of war crafted from the mightiest timbers rolled forth on wheels of iron, each one a fortress unto itself. Archers perched within, their arrows a storm that blotted out the sun, a rain of death upon those who dared resist. Battering rams forged with heads of bronze smashed through the stoutest walls, their relentless rhythm a harbinger of doom. They did not merely destroy defenses, they shattered the will of those who stood against them. Before their assaults, they unleashed a weapon more insidious than steel. Their heralds spread tales of horror, of cities razed to the ground, of peoples broken and enslaved, sowing despair in the hearts of their foes. Many surrendered without a fight, their spirits crushed by the weight of fear. The Assyrians were masters of terror, their very name a curse upon the lips of the vanquished. They reveled in their dominion, their pride a banner they waved with arrogance. Their soldiers were disciplined, their strategies honed by centuries of war. They diverted rivers to starve their enemies, built bridges to cross the widest chasms, and dug beneath walls to bring them down. Their ingenuity as deadly as their blades. When they laid siege, they encircled their prey like a predator, cutting off all hope of sustenance or aid. No food, no water, no messages could pass. Their camps formed a ring of death around their target. a noose that tightened with each passing day. Their king Sennacherib proclaimed himself the ruler of all creation, his pride carved into tablets of clay, his victories immortalized in stone reliefs. He boasted of his invincibility, of cities that fell at his mere approach. He had crushed the northern kingdom of Israel, its people scattered, its cities burned. Now he sought to add Jerusalem to his conquests, to prove that no God could stand against him. His ambition was a fire that consumed all in its path. The people of Judah trembled, their whispers filled with dread. How can we stand against such a foe? They spoke of the northern kingdom's fall, of the horrors inflicted upon those who resisted. Mothers clutched their children, their eyes searching the horizon for the enemy's banners. Farmers abandoned their fields, their hands trembling as they hid their meager stores. The city was a cauldron of fear, its people teetering on the edge of despair. But Hezekiah, steadfast in faith, refused to yield to the darkness. He gathered his people in the shadow of the temple, his voice a beacon in the gathering storm. We shall prepare, for our God is with us. He summoned the builders of Jerusalem, raise our walls higher. He commanded, the city became a hive of activity, the sound of chisels and hammers, a defiant song. From sunrise to sunset they toiled, their sweat a testament to their resolve. Stones were hewn from the quarries, each one laid with a prayer for protection. The walls grew taller, thicker, a bulwark against the coming storm. Jerusalem transformed into a fortress, its silhouette a challenge to the enemy. The builders worked with fervor. Their hands calloused, their spirits unbroken. They fortified the gates with iron, raised watchtowers to scan the horizon, and stockpiled stones to rain upon invaders. But Hezekiah knew walls alone would not suffice. The city's spring, its lifeblood, lay beyond the walls, vulnerable to the enemy. If the Assyrians cut off their water, the city would wither like a vine in drought. He devised a plan, a marvel of ingenuity. Dig a tunnel through the rock, he ordered. Laborers descended into the earth, their torches flickering in the gloom, their faces etched with determination. They carved through solid stone, working from both ends. Their efforts a testament to their faith. The air was thick with dust, the sound of pickaxes a rhythmic prayer. Each strike was a plea to the Almighty, each drop of sweat a sacrifice for survival. The tunnel stretched beneath the city, a hidden vein bringing water to its heart. When the two teams met in the darkness, a cheer arose, a sound of triumph in the depths. The people prepared for the siege-gathering stores of grain, oil, and wine. Women baked bread in the cool of the morning, their hands kneading dough with silent prayers. Children carried jars to the storehouses, their laughter a fleeting echo of innocence. Jars were sealed with the king's mark, LMLK, each one a symbol of endurance, a promise of survival through the dark days ahead. The storehouses filled a bulwark against the hunger to come. Hezekiah walked among his people, his presence a balm to their fears. Be not afraid, he urged, for the Assyrians may be mighty, but our God is mightier still. He recounted the miracles of old, of David's victory over Goliath, of the Red Sea parting before Moses, of the plagues that humbled Egypt, of the walls of Jericho that fell by divine command. These stories were not mere tales, but truths, proofs of the Almighty's power, reminders of a God who fights for his people. Hezekiah fortified the hearts of his people, his words a shield against the Assyrian terror. He gathered the elders in the temple courts, their faces lined with age and wisdom. He spoke of the covenant, of the promises that had sustained their ancestors, of a God who never fails. The elders nodded, their eyes alight with memory, their voices joining in prayer. A chorus of faith that rose to the heavens. The city became a citadel of the Spirit, its people united by a shared hope. Yet the question lingered, a shadow upon every heart. Would their preparations be enough? Could their walls withstand the Assyrian onslaught? Would their faith endure the trial to come? The earth quaked as the Assyrian army approached. From the walls, the people of Jerusalem looked out, their hearts sinking at the sight. A sea of warriors stretched to the horizon, their banners a tapestry of terror. Spears glinted in the sunlight. Shields formed a wall of iron, and the war towers loomed like giants, their shadows swallowing the land. The air was thick with the promise of violence. The Assyrian soldiers marched in unison, their boots a drumbeat of doom, their war cries a cacophony of menace. Chariots rumbled across the plain, their wheels churning the earth into dust. The people on the walls clung to each other, their prayers a desperate whisper, their eyes searching for a sign of hope. The city seemed small against the vastness of the enemy, a lone candle in a storm of darkness. But the Assyrians did not strike. At once, a lone figure stepped forth. Rabshakeh, herald of Sennacherib, his voice a weapon as sharp as any blade. He spoke in Hebrew for all to hear, his words a dagger aimed at the heart of Jerusalem. People of Jerusalem, he bellowed, why do you place your trust in Hezekiah? He cannot save you from our might. Your God has never stood against us, and he will not stand now. His words were a venom meant to poison the hearts of the faithful. I give you 2,000 horses, he mocked. If you can find men brave enough to ride them, laughter echoed from the Assyrian ranks, a cruel sound that chilled the air. Then he spoke with honeyed deceit. Surrender now and we shall spare you. We will take you to a land of plenty, where rivers flow and vineyards flourish. Why die behind these walls? His voice was a serpent's hiss, promising life while dealing death. Fear spread like wildfire, its tendrils wrapping around the hearts of the people. Some whispered among themselves, is he right? Should we surrender? Doubt gnawed at their resolve, a shadow that threatened to consume their faith. The guards on the walls tightened their grips on their spears, their faces pale, their hands trembling. Mothers gathered their children, shielding them from the sight of the enemy, their prayers a desperate plea for deliverance. When word of Rabshakeh's taunts reached Hezekiah, he tore his robes in anguish. Donning sackcloth to mourn the blasphemy, he fell to his knees in the temple, his cries a lament for his people's suffering. But he did not waver. He turned to the one who spoke for God, sending messengers to Isaiah, the prophet whose words carried divine weight. The city held its breath, waiting for a sign, a whisper of hope. Isaiah stood before the messengers, his eyes alight with the fire of prophecy, his voice a thunderclap of certainty. Fear not, he proclaimed, for the Lord has heard the Assyrians' scorn. Their pride shall be their undoing, for no mortal hand can defy the Almighty. The messengers returned to Hezekiah, their faces radiant with the prophet's words. The king lifted his head, his heart strengthened by the promise of deliverance. He called his people to the temple, to pray as one, to place their trust in the God of their fathers. Night fell upon Jerusalem, the Assyrian campfires glowing like a field of fallen stars. The city was silent. Its people gathered in prayer, their voices a soft hum of faith. In the temple, Hezekiah knelt before the altar, his prayers rising like a desperate hymn. Lord, thou art the only God, he whispered, his voice trembling with emotion. Hear the cries of thy people. See the arrogance of those who defy thee. Deliver us, O Almighty, and let the world know thy power. The priests joined him, their chants a chorus of supplication, their hands raised to the heavens. The air in the temple was heavy with reverence, the golden light of the menorah casting shadows on the walls. Then in the deepest hour of the night, a silence fell, a stillness so profound it was as if the world held its breath. The sounds of the Assyrian camp, voices, laughter, the clatter of steel vanished into the void. The guards on the wall stood frozen, their eyes straining in the darkness, their hearts pounding with a mixture of fear and hope. The night seemed to hold its breath, as if awaiting a divine decree. When dawn broke, the people of Jerusalem climbed the walls, their eyes wide with wonder and fear. What they beheld defied comprehension, a miracle written in the stillness of death. 185,000 Assyrian warriors lay dead, their bodies untouched by blade or arrow. No sign of battle marred the scene, no blood stained the earth. A divine hand had passed in the night, its judgment swift and absolute. The camp was a graveyard, tents abandoned, fires burned to embers, weapons scattered like the toys of a child. The war towers stood silent, their menace extinguished by a power beyond mortal ken. Whispers spread like a holy fire. The angel of the Lord has come. A celestial warrior bearer of divine wrath had walked among the enemy. Its presence a storm of judgment, its power a testament to the Almighty's might. Some spoke of a plague, a silent scourge sent by the Almighty, a punishment for the Assyrians' blasphemy. Others recalled the angel of Passover, the one who struck Egypt's firstborn long ago, a harbinger of divine justice. But all agreed on one truth. This was the work of God, a miracle that affirmed the covenant, a sign that the Almighty had not forsaken his people. the city erupted in awe, its people falling to their knees in gratitude. The few Assyrians who survived fled in terror, their spirits broken. They stumbled over the bodies of their comrades, their cries echoing in the morning air, their pride reduced to ashes. Sennacherib, the king who dared defy the Almighty, retreated to Nineveh, his pride a shattered crown upon his brow. He fled with the remnants of his army, his dreams of conquest buried in the Judean hills. But even in his city of splendor, he could not escape divine justice. As he knelt before his false gods, his heart heavy with defeat, his own sons rose against him, their swords striking true, ending his reign. The news of Sennacherib's fall reached Jerusalem, a final confirmation of the Almighty's power. The people wept with joy, their faith renewed by the miracle they had witnessed. The city was a beacon of light, its walls a testament to divine protection. Jerusalem erupted in celebration, the streets alive with songs of deliverance. The people danced before the temple, their voices lifted in gratitude, their hands raised to the heavens. Children ran through the streets, their laughter a melody of hope, their eyes bright with the promise of a future. Elders stood in the temple courts, their prayers a hymn of thanksgiving, their hearts full of awe. Hezekiah, the king who trusted in God, stood among his people, his heart swelling with awe. He had seen the power of the Almighty, a power that no mortal army could withstand. He led the people in a final prayer, his voice a song of praise, a declaration of faith that echoed through the ages. The tale of the angel of judgment, the celestial force that felled 185,000 warlords in a single night, spread across the lands, a testament to the might of the divine, a warning to those who would defy the Lord. It was whispered in the courts of kings, sung by bards in distant lands, written in the scrolls of the wise. The story became a legend, a reminder of the power of faith, of the God who fights for his people. But the story does not end here. For the angel who brought judgment may be one of the 7 archangels, each a bearer of divine purpose, their roles written in the annals of eternity. Would you know the name of this celestial warrior? Which of the 7 wields the sword of wrath? Which heals the broken, which heralds the divine word? And when the final day dawns, what roles shall they play in the end of all things? Listen, O seeker of truth, to the saga of the 7 archangels, a tale that will unveil the mysteries of the heavens and forever change the way you see the divine.